fundamental to humanity. And so translating into a digital environment, supernatural. And when we have done a ton of analysis on it, it basically turns out that if someone has access to high-speed internet, they're playing some digital game of some type, may it be Minesweeper or Solitaire on your PC, or, something more immersive like, a Call of Duty or a Halo. So to me, the greatest places it's going to grow is actually in regions of the world that are getting that access, and India and Africa and places with huge, huge populations of people who are sort of on the cusp of getting that type of regular access to high-speed connectivity and immersive play.
And what is your team is like really invested in game developers and democratizing game development. Like, what does that look like? Like, are we going to just have like 100x number of game developers in the future?
I think we absolutely will. The thing is that if you look at all forms of media, they used to all be in this very professionalized state. And we've seen as technical tools
like movies or something like that.
Movies or something. Yeah, technical tools proliferated, and
now everyone's making a TikTok video.
TikTok, right? And similarly, if you think about that with music, right? You've seen where you had to have all these things, and now it's much more. It's possible for Justin Bieber to become a thing, right? Basically, because of a viral moment. But that hasn't happened fully with gaming yet. You see examples of it. People might say, Minecraft is an example, Roblox is another example, but they're not there. There's constraints around them, right? Like it's in a certain world, it has a certain look and feel. We haven't totally created
like a game within a game, people creating, but they're not creating like their own game or something.
Or a no code way to build any type of game that you want. Right? Like you either have to deal with a whole bunch of constraints for what the game is like, or you have to basically just code it yourself, in which case it requires a level of professionalism and organization that isn't accessible to everyone in the world. And that makes sense to me, because games are actually much harder technically than any other form of media, in some ways than any other form of anything that I've seen. Like working within Minecraft, we look at the latency required with games, the workload, the multivariate nature of them, the fact that it includes sort of left brain and right brain. Like a game isn't just good because it performs, it's good because it's entertaining, right? And what is entertaining? Like, what is joy? What is humor? What makes you keep coming back? Those are very subtle things that you need to learn to replicate and innovate on. And so we see that democratization, we see trends of it, but it's not nearly as far as music and video. So I'll give you an example. If you looked at the Xbox 360 generation, the creators on our platform were largely like Electronic Arts, Activision, Take-Two,
big companies,
big companies, massive teams. Now you have it, it's possible that a small team can create a game that goes completely viral. A classic example, most people don't think of it this way, Fortnite was really, Epic was not a huge developer when they first created Fortnite. They're a huge developer now because they've had all of the success related to it, but they were actually able to leverage that. PUBG is another example. And the reason why that can happen now is because of a whole bunch of technical tools, like an engine that makes it easier to build a game, the fact that you can digitally publish and all of those things. So you see the trend coming, and it's just going to keep evolving over time.
You can write that game into many different formats. You don't have to just put it on one particular type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
How important is like graphics? When I think of like when I see some of the games my kids play, like the graphics aren't like, they're like slightly better than the games that I played when I was a kid. They're not, so it seems like there's a certain type of gamer where like they care deeply about the graphics, and then maybe the average, maybe the average gamer doesn't care. Or how do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is no such thing as average gamer.
Yeah. Okay.
It's sort of like, let's talk about what the average human likes. I mean, I do, what you're hitting on is that there's a lot of different things that people find entertaining. And some people are really into, okay, I need to be able to have my 4K. I've got my massive OLED screen. I've got 4K. I've got, do you know what I mean? 60 frames per second. And I can see it if it's not like that. And there are people 100% like that. And then there's other people who love the story of the game, or there's other people who are really into the mechanic of the game, or there's other people who are really into the connection. And so ultimately, I would say, look, like we want to deliver a level of graphic capability to the developer, so it's an option that they have. But you say, does it matter? Is it necessary to succeed? No. I mean, you brought up Wordle. Is there graphics in Wordle?
Yeah, exactly.
No. What's necessary to succeed is that you create something that brings joy to people and entertains them, and that they want to come back and do again.
And there are also like a lot of different types of games. If you think of like, there are games where it's like completely immersive experience that you're going to play for hours and hours. And there's games that are kind of like, as you mentioned, like
Dipping in
Wordle.
and out.
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute a day thing. And it's just kind of a fun little thing you do on the side. And you may even do it while you're watching TV, or
it's effectively a fidget spinner.
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. It's effectively a fidget spinner. You're doing it while you're on the commuting or something, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, 100%.
How do you think of like the creator economy intersecting with the gaming world, and how do you think that's going to evolve over time?
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, it has intersected. Like if you look at a lot of tools that were born in gaming, they've become tools that are relevant across the creator economy more broadly. So if you look at Unity, Unreal, those are 3D engines, but now you see people using those 3D engines to do all sorts of other things. Build a roller coaster, right?
Yep.
People use Unreal for that, and create buildings or scenes or graphical interfaces. You see that. And then there's other like specialty tools. There's this one tool called SpeedTree that people use to actually sort of fill in environments in games. That's now being leveraged in all sorts of other places, including in movies and other things like that. And so people talk about them as separate. I actually think they are highly related in that gaming tools and capabilities and 3D graphics, rendering, being able to do a creative story, all of those things are sort of flowing in the creator economy, and in many ways the bedrock of it.
And how do you think of like the idea of like streaming meets gaming, whether it's like Twitch or something? I mean, I'm still flabbergasted that people watch golf. So, and obviously watching someone play a video game seems a lot more exciting to me than watching someone, play golf. Like, how do you think of it does seem like a lot of the gaming popularity is being driven also by like these creators who are playing the game.
Yeah, completely. I mean, people spend more hours watching games than playing games. Like, that is a real stat.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
is that true?
It is. It's
true. Oh my
gosh,
I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's for a variety of reasons. I mean, I think some of it is that you do see people just love the streamers themselves, fall in love with those personalities, right? Just like you would, a personality that plays a sport or that's on TV. Some people do it because it's actually really cool to watch a person play a game well. And then some people do it because they're trying to learn how to play the game themselves. And it does feel quite intuitive to me. I'll say growing up, that's what my family would do. Like one of us would sit down to play and everybody else would watch it.
Watch it. Yeah, exactly. Or you'd have like two people playing and then the rest of the kids just kind of watching the two people and kind of cheering for them, or that type of thing. And then it's like, hey, it's my turn, jump in.
Right. And what a platform like YouTube gaming or a Twitch has done is it's enabled to take it beyond your household and have it be anyone. It's the difference between couch co-op and online multiplayer in terms of who you can connect with.
And how do you think of like the social piece of it? And some kids I know, when they play Fortnite, like they're playing with their friends and they're actually, it's really just, it's like the chatting is the social piece. But, back in, when I was a kid 1,000 years ago, we would be on the couch together kind of playing, and that was kind of our social way of doing it. So how do you see that evolving, and where do you see like and how do you see that like affecting society?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. 70% of people under 25 would rather play a video game than engage in any other form of entertainment.
Okay.
Like including social media. It's amazing. So, and I think it's exactly for the reason that you just said. which is there's the entertainment of playing, but what it really is it's a way to connect with people. And for
they're not just playing single player mode, like they want to play with other people.
Yeah, I mean, some
even
people
if there's
do
other
play
people all over
mode.
the world. Yeah.
Yeah, some people do play single player mode, but the connection, I think, is really key. And it's different from what you and I grew up with. And it allows people to actually achieve something with someone who can live really far away, who could speak a different language, you can maintain, you can grow those relationships. We have people on our platform who have lifelong friends, best friends they've made, and they've never met them. They've only played games with them, you know, or they'll come to one of our showcases and they'll meet them for the first time and they're like crying, tears of joy, like I finally saw you in person. And I think that's really powerful because it opens up things. Like there's a whole set of constraints. If you say, hey, the only people I can connect with, they need to live in my, you know, when you and I were kids, like they need to live in our neighborhood, they probably went to our school.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they needed to be within a 5-minute walk because mom was okay with that. Otherwise, you had to organize a drive and you had 3 phone numbers memorized, right? And those were the people you could call to come over to your house.
Totally.
And now that constraint is taken away and you can build that connection with people over long distances. A friend moves away, you don't lose contact with them. My daughter has someone she plays with who moved all the way to the other side of the country. And that's a really powerful thing. I'll tell a story. Like during COVID, we didn't used to let my kids play online games a lot. They were 5 and 8 when COVID started, and so we were really careful about it. But then COVID happened, and we're like, well, what are we going to do?
All the rules are out the window when COVID hit.
Rules are out the window. You're not.
We just had just tons of candy in my house.
Yeah, yeah. We had a lot of Legos. I was like scared the Lego factory was going to shut down. I swear. And so we said, okay, you can play Minecraft with friends. And they started doing that because that was the only play date they could have.
Totally.
But then I realized that they were actually organizing a play date that I would never organize because they were playing with kids who lived on the other side of the city where, you know, the transit time would be too much, you know, on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. And
then they were playing with like the older cousins of, you know, of one of the kids joined in. And then some kids who had moved on the other side of the country joined in, and they were all of different ages. And I was looking at it, I was like, okay, so by nature of playing through a game, a social interaction that otherwise would have never actually existed has come to exist. And so when you talk about how I think it'll shape the future, when you unlock something, it just can't happen any other way. You've unlocked something that people actually want, they desire, but would have just been so practically difficult to do, you would never do it. And that's why I think it becomes an ever more prevalent part of how our society interacts and connects.
Yeah, it's also like when I play, if I just play a game, you know, on the internet anonymously or something, like I have no idea who I'm playing with. Like they might be anywhere in the world. They might be of any age. They could be of any type of demographic. Sometimes you get a sense in the chat of the type of person they are, depending on like what they're talking about or how they talk, etc. But you know, it's kind of cool because it's like I have no idea, and you know, it's kind of this kind of interesting. You have 15 minutes together on a game, and then you kind of move on. I think it's like a really interesting piece of humanity.
Yeah, and it's I think of it as one of the only way I can think of that you can share an achievement with someone. You cannot meet them. You don't need to know what they look like. You don't need to speak the same language. You might not have the same ability. Yeah. Right. And you can actually get something done, not show them something you did, which is a lot of what we see in a lot of other consumer categories. But you can actually collaborate and achieve something together. And I think that's very powerful.
Now, this, of course, is a data podcast. Like, what are the core stats or data that you track that maybe people who are not as steeped in the gaming industry would not think to track?
Well, you know, I thought about that a lot. A lot when I came to Xbox, a lot of the focus that we had rightly here is on player stats, right? Monthly average users, engagement hours, DAU over MAU ratio, monetization per hour, like all of these things, you know what I mean? Like all of these things that are related to how our players are engaging on and monetizing in our platform. And I believe that is so core. But what I really learned in my time here is that a platform versus if you're running a game, that's really righteous. If you're running a platform, which I define as like a two-sided ecosystem, you sort of need to look at the inverse of that too. right? And so I spend a lot of my time essentially looking at developers and saying, okay, how many developers are developing for us?
Yep.
You know, how many of them are shipping? Of those games are shipping, how healthy are they monetizing? What are their total economics on our platform across like subscription, and like how healthy are they? And those are the stats that I think are sort of an unconventional one for a consumer business to look at. But for us, because so much of our success is actually reliant upon making other creators successful, it's really core to the overall health of what we do.
When you think of like, there are certain types of subscription businesses like Netflix or Spotify that have many of the same characteristics as like a Game Pass. But then there's also areas where like those where the similarities really break down. Like if you create a movie or a TV show, you could put that anywhere. Maybe Netflix buys the exclusive rights to it, or maybe Netflix is actually producing it. Same thing with a song that could be anywhere. Maybe it's, you know, exclusively on Spotify or something, but likely
a thing to remember. It makes everybody rise to that level. And to me, I think that that's a responsibility.
I don't know if I said it to her the right way that I wanted to when she was here, but it's like,
but I spend so much time trying to be great and fighting to be great and wanting to be great that if I'm not great, what am I?
Yes.
You know, and I feel that. And I'm like, am I good enough?
Right.
So you can't allow the enemy.
Right.
You know, you can't allow great to be the enemy of good.
Yes, and enjoying the journey to great, even if, like, you know what I mean, you still find it. Your feet in it, because the truth is you don't know how long that journey is going to take. So you got to enjoy each process to great. And great can look so far away, but it's actually not.
yeah, but if you only, if you're only comfortable and great,
Yes.
that means you're going to be uncomfortable at all the phases before that, and that's not a great, that's not a good way to live life.
Yeah.
You can't be great at everything.
Yeah, right.
You know?
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
You know?
We learned so much from Michelle Obama.
We did.
The Bible of Michelle.
The Bible of Michelle Obama.
What would Michelle Obama do?
I'm saying WWMD.
WWMD.
Make the bracelet, make the bracelet, Kelly.
The book? The next book needs to come with those bracelets.
Man.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Angie,
you.
for leading this incredible
Thank
panel.
you.
Enjoy. And solidarity. From the world stage to our living room, the nation's first Black First Lady is coming through just for us. With her new bestseller, The Light We Carry, overcoming in uncertain times, topping the charts, she reserve some family time to talk, laugh, cry, and comfort us. Our visit hits different.
You being a brown-skinned girl in the White House.
Ours is up close and personal.
Now I'm gonna cry.
Ours is revolt times Michelle Obama. The unfiltered, uncut, and completely unapologetic
My kids tell me, Mama, you don't have a filter anymore.
cross-generational conversation.
Because you don't have to have one.
This is an extraordinary, amazing group of women. Wow, wow, wow. Hi, everyone. Hey. I just want to say, at the beginning, I just want to say I would love to just, us to all hang out in real life.
Oh,
we should do this again. Definitely, we got to do this again. I was saying backstage, I was like, I would like to hang out with this
With a
crew.
little glass of something, that would help.
A glass of something.
Glass of something, whatever the
We can
something
totally
is,
do this
everybody has.
whenever.
Right.
We are gathered here today to celebrate and to kind of reflect on the offering that is the light we carry. Yay!
Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I wrote a book.
You wrote another book.
Excuse me. And another one.
Another best-selling book. What does this period feel like to you when you put this out in the world? Because it's so personal and intimate, and then everyone reads it, and
It is terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I write about fear a lot. And I talk about what it was like to put out becoming anything that is you, your music, your art, there is a level of, oh my God, I'm about to put this out to the world. It is all me.
Yes.
Is it right?
Yes.
Does it make sense? Are people going to understand it? I mean, we all go through that, you know? I think there are a lot of young people who look at famous people who do things and think that we don't experience those doubts. But before I walk out on stage to give a speech, before I put something important out into the world, I am nervous. I am like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I said too much. So I just learned to ride that wave.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned is that what's on the other side of that wave, as we talk about fear, oftentimes is growth and something good and useful, and it's worth the risk.
Yeah.
It's worth the ride.
We were we were back in the room earlier today in the hallway with Miss Tina and Kelly and I. We were talking about, because vulnerability is a big theme in the book. And you know, sometimes it's easy to be vulnerable about something that from our past. Oh, when I was 20, I went through, or 18, I went through. You're able to tell these stories, but in real time, things that are pretty recent.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about being depressed after COVID, and that's a pretty current kind of recent feeling. And so I wonder from everyone, because Kelly and I have talked about this, that you recently had to pull over to the side of the road because you were having anxiety.
Yes.
In real time.
Yes.
Something you still deal with.
Yes.
What are some of the struggles that we all kind of, I don't know, are battling now that we're okay? Being vulnerable about?
Say where to begin.
You said you're more happy, you're more comfortable being vulnerable now,
Yes.
vulnerable now in life.
I think it's something about turning 60. That you're not so guarded and so protective of everything, that it's a big secret. And now I'm just really comfortable, even with the things that I might have had shame about when I was younger. Like, I mean, I can talk so freely about growing up really poor now. But when I was younger, I didn't necessarily want everybody to know that that was, you know, my how I grew up. And so now I just feel free to be myself, genuinely myself, and I'm not as concerned about people liking me as much. So it's something about turning 60.
There's something about getting older in general that you eventually start caring less.
Yes, and my kids tell me, they're like, Mama, you don't have a filter anymore. I'm like,
It's like, because
try
you
to
don't
find a
have to
filter.
have one. It's like, you don't have to have, because you don't have to have one anymore. That's right. That's right. That's why I say, you know, youth is wonderful. But that's really all you have is youth.
That's right.
You know, life does get better every decade, which is, you know, when I talk to young people who are agonizing about not knowing themselves or feeling uncertain in their 20s and 30s, it's like, give it time. You will settle into yourself. You will gain, and when I say at the beginning of the book, the tools that you learn over time, I warn young people, be patient with yourself. Some of this stuff you won't know. You cannot know until you're in your 50s and 60s, but just be patient through the process.
And be nice to yourself.
You said something in your book about you said we are whole people with like whole situations and whole lives, you know, and I had a tough year, and I knew it was because of growth, where I just felt like I was so focused on trying to do the right thing, that I got lost and I didn't listen to how I actually feel, and like the yeses that should have been nos, or you know, listening to everybody else's voice and what they think, as opposed to what I think feels right. And it's that battle, and it's that balance that you talk about, of just like knowing when to trust yourself. Things are going to be trial and error, practicing, you know, in life. And that's just, you should allow yourself that, right? Especially when you're in your 20s. And I'm in the middle, I'm in the thick of it right now, and it's hard to be vulnerable, especially being you know, on a platform and people looking at you and feeling that pressure and that responsibility. But you take it on because it's for you, you can handle it, you know, and like you said, giving yourself that grace.
Well, one of the main conversations I'm having with my eldest is learning, her practicing setting her boundaries. You know, the no's in life, and you don't know that right away. First of all, you just need to recognize that you have to have boundaries. That
I love boundaries. I'm the queen.
Right. That's exactly right.
Sometimes too many boundaries.
But you don't, but when you're in your 20s, you feel like you should say yes to every opportunity. You second guess everything. You think somebody else's judgment is better than yours. You don't have, you're developing your gut, right? And you just don't, you're a baby in learning your gut right now. And that's okay. But what becomes challenging is you got a big career. You know, you're doing outsized things in your 20s, and the mistakes may feel bigger than they are because everybody's watching them. But you still need to go through that process. You know, you have to be kind to yourself through that process.
And kind of enjoy the ride too. Don't you feel like that? Because you may spend a whole bunch of time building up walls and building up your boundaries, and then you may get to another phase in your life, 40s, 50s, whenever it is, where you go, I'm ready to put some of these walls back down because it doesn't serve you anymore. You don't need them anymore. You care less about what people say. So it's the constant evolution of it all. So when this pressure that we put on ourselves when we're in our 20s, right? You probably do this.
All the time.
How old are you? You're in 20s, right?
Yeah,
You're
I'm
a baby
28.
20. You're still 20s? Yeah, 20s. That's 20.
Yeah, 20s.
But in your 20s, I don't
Yes,
know.
I'm still in my 20s.
In my 20s, I
I'm in no
thought I
rush.
had to have
I'm
it
in
all.
no rush.
I had to have it all together. I thought in my 20s, I thought I had to find the right man. I had to have my job, the right.
I feel like I didn't recognize that until I noticed how many eyes were on me, because I remember just being free. And like, you know, being on social media and stuff and not even realizing that I had a platform yet until like, you know, people started talking about me in the news and stuff like that. And that always scared me. And like people coming up to me always made me nervous. And so I kind of, in that sense, put a guard up. And like when people would come up to me or yell my name, I would be like, not know what to do or like turn around and walk away. And I realized like it was creating bad experiences. With people who were trying to show me love in their own way that I wasn't receiving. And so I had to open up in like that vulnerability sense within myself to be like, you know what? Why am I closing off? It is okay to like receive love. It is okay to be nervous and even be honest about it and tell people if I feel nervous. And when I started doing that and opening up about being like scared, nervous, or, you know, being vulnerable, I think it helped me more in life.
It takes the power away.
Just explaining that emotion, right? You give that vulnerability gives people a broader sense of the challenges you face. One of the things that I had to learn to do, especially when I was with my family, people would come up, show that love. You know, they want a picture or an autograph. And instead of being upset by it, I would just explain, look, you can stand here, we can have a conversation all day, but the minute you pull out a phone or ask me to do a thing, you've turned it from a regular interaction into a thing. But when you explain that to people, they're like, I get it.
But can you explain that to everyone?
Well, you know, if I'm first lady and I'm on a soccer field and I want to be at soccer with my kids because it was important to be at their game or their this or their that, if I wouldn't trade off being there. But I had to teach people how to treat me in this space, you know, and they're looking for that, right? It's like, I'm gonna be out on the soccer field all day, and I will talk to you like a regular mother. Bring your kid over, because we're all talking on the field. But the minute you turn it into a thing, we have to stop it.
I don't know that I could have lived your life and you wouldn't have seen me angry. Or you wouldn't have seen me snap at somebody and say, that's not, you know, because people, not everyone is as gracious as you would like them to be or understanding. But get the message.
But that's the thing about vulnerability. You know, instead of reacting with anger by saying, I'm gonna share with you this thing I'm feeling.
Right.
Which is when you interrupt me in a place where I'm being a mother,
space, yeah.
then that turns it into something else. People get it, you know, and that's the thing about being vulnerable. We think that it makes us more out there. But really, if we give people credit for understanding that situation, they respond. They do. At least I've learned that they do. So the first reaction for me is not rejection, but it's let me explain this to you. You know, this is how this is gonna work. Love you, but don't do this. We can do this, you know? So, you know, that would be a thing to remember. I'm talking to my kids about that
I
now.
be trying sometimes.
This is one
I
of
think
the
with
things
time and
we-
communication.
We appreciate so much about you.
Yeah.
Because you have been an example of that for us.
Absolutely.
When we're in these moments. When you're in this moment when you want to say, everybody leave me alone. You think, what would Michelle do?
What would Michelle do? I'm gonna get a bracelet that says that.
Do you do that?
I did that. I'm not even just saying that. I had a WWMD moment where I was like, what would Mrs. Obama do? Because I feel like, just like you just stated, there's so many moments where people, I mean, it's not even just like it's not a celebrity thing, it's just a creating a respectful space there. And whether that's with family or friends or business or whatever, you're always so scared. I know, at least I can say I'm usually nervous about how is the other person going to react to my boundary? And then I had to learn that ain't my business.
Right.
How you react is not my business.
You're getting better at not being a people pleaser.
Right,
Yeah, you're getting really good.
And that may be part of it, that their reaction still bothers you.
Yeah,
You know, and so you've got to get to the point, and this is the part of the book where we talk about the mask, the boundaries, the protecting our armor, you know, protecting. Once we get to know ourselves and know our light, it's not just to be out there. You You have to create some protection for it because people will eat your light up. You know, they will wear it down if you let it, and it's not even intentional.
No.
You know, it's just because people are hungry for something. And I try to keep that in mind. What's going on with you? If you've reacted negatively to me, I'm not taking that in because I know I didn't do anything. And the older you get, you realize it really ain't me. So what happened to you today? You know? But it is important to protect. You have a right, particularly as you're young, as we have learned, you have a right to your boundaries. People don't have to like it, you know, but then you have to get over wanting them to like your boundaries. You set them and move on. Now, when I'm in that situation where they get a little too, then I leave.
Right. Okay.
Then the situation is over.
Yeah, I think there's something really true to what Ms. Tina was saying also about once you've done that in your life and you've created these spaces and your boundaries and you know what you're willing to do and not, it's easier to say, but this type of thing hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
Because you're protected in your own way from your own vulnerability. Like, if you're not comfortable with your boundaries and then you're vulnerable, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how somebody could take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
We only see like everyone's highlight reel, you know, in social media. In their life, and or we meet people quickly and we're like, oh, how are you? I'm great. Everything's great. Oh, that's wonderful. But we don't say, I'm having a hard day today.
Because you don't want to throw that on nobody. I'm literally thinking, I don't want to put that on nobody today. And I will probably, I know for me, I will probably like carry all of that. And then if I don't say something or even like have a moment to call you or the girls or my friends or whatever, it blows out. It comes out on the wrong person, or it comes out in my marriage, or it comes out on my kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to take, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that. And so I have to talk about it, or cry it out on the side of the road, or have a real quick chat to myself like, well, why you say that like that to that person? You know, I have to check myself. And I'm finally like good with being honest with myself, even when I see that part that I don't like, that I'm still working.
That's a tough thing.
Yeah.
But I liked what you said about the boundaries and the vulnerability. It's not a celebrity thing. It's not it's in so many different ways. And on the other side of it, you know, when you talk about protecting, I feel like I've experienced, because I've been pretty protected, you know, my whole life.
You came out, you didn't even want people to see your face.
Right. Exactly.
Well, first of all, let me say that's the smartest thing. I'm like, yes.
Thank you.
Yes to not rushing out into that, first of all.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I think that started to turn into people around me, like amplifying that guardedness. And I feel like I haven't been able to connect to people and do this. And that's even hard for me to say. And I had a year where I was saying, like, I don't know if I like the woman that I'm becoming. And that's a really hard thing to face and a hard thing to say. And I realized it's because everybody kind of had their, you know, thing around me, which I want to say is good intent, but I needed to have that outreach to people and have conversations like this. And I love that in your book you talked about a community of people not doing things alone. Because I felt like I always had to do things alone, or I had to hold everything in and not say how I feel. And being vulnerable is what got me here in the first place.
Absolutely.
So I'm having to learn how to be real with myself and the people around me, and use my tools and be able to not be afraid to say, hey, Angie, because we know each other, how did you handle this situation? Or am I tripping? You know, or hey, how did you experience this? Like, I'm so happy to hear you say, like, I get nervous when people come up to me because I feel the same way, and I didn't know that was okay.
I remember going to the Oscars one year, and it was so many people, and I was going through my own growth and my own changes and everything and learning who I was. I was so uncomfortable. In this room, and I kept measuring myself up to other people, and that's so insane because it's like, why didn't why ain't I? I'm country. Why ain't I just pat myself on the back for my accomplishments and put that forth and just be proud of that? I kept measuring, and I don't care, like I said, if you're in the industry or not, you're a young person, you're measuring yourself up and to see like where you should be in this. Part of your life or whatever, like when we remove that, it's so much more freedom and comfort.
There's so much in life that we have to practice. You know, you have to practice building and being in community no matter where you are, because those habits are important and that support is necessary. And sometimes when you're in the public eye or shy or whatever, holding yourself in, where you are now, you're out of the practice of community. And so now that you can identify it, which is key, because you can say that and you said it out loud.
Yeah.
You cannot practice just being an island to yourself.
But question, but isn't there a part of you that wants to be a trusted friend too, or do you?
No.
Just put yourself in the parent box.
No.
Okay.
Caring for your kids and watching them grow is one of the most rewarding endeavors on earth. And at the same time, it can drive you nuts.
What are some of the struggles that we all kind of, I don't know, are battling now that we're okay being vulnerable about?
Oh, man.
I'd say where to begin.
I know, right? Right. For me, I'd say motherhood.
It's that push and pull of how do I protect my child?
Yeah.
And we feel this until they are
Absolutely.
forever, right? But how do I let them go so that they can have these experiences, get bumped in the head, walk off the cliff, walk into a wall? This
so
is
hard.
the hardest part
It's the hardest.
about
Parenting.
parenting is letting them grow up and make mistakes and be out there. It is people say it's your heart out on your shoulder. In the rain.
Why does
getting
nobody
wet.
tell you that in advance?
I'm telling people now.
Why does nobody? Listen, if
rushing
anybody's thinking
into
about having a
parenting,
baby,
it
this
is.
stuff happens.
When we were in the White House with my girls, they could have been as sheltered and protected as anybody, but I had to think about what's going to happen when this 8 years is over. How are they going to exist in the world? So I have to get them out of this comfort zone now. I have to make sure that they are living, even in their abnormal world. They have to learn how to make friends.
Right.
They have to learn how to be comfortable at a sleepover. They have to go to the prom. They have to get a driver's license. They have to get on a bus. They have to go through an airport by themselves. They have to make their own friends.
So weird to watch somebody in public,
But you feel like you've known them,
I feel like I
right?
know them. We all do feel
Yeah.
like we've known them. I mean, you're a mom of kids we know. What is that like?
To make sure that there's a balance so that they don't feel that they're entitled to things, because I remember, stories about that because of the position that they're in, that they're entitled and that someone should just give them something because, I remember Beyonce being in the group at first and someone coming in she brought the other girl in, and the girl was older, like stronger, and had a better voice at the time than her. But she had
Not
been...
possible, not possible.
No. Oh, yeah, because she was much older and stronger. And her coming home and saying, that's not fair because I brought her there and, and they not even telling me thank you. And now she's just singing all the lead. And I'm like, you know what I would do? I would go get in those voice lessons. And I just worked twice as hard because the world ain't fair. And, that was a really tough lesson for that age.
Please, one more time.
Oh, yeah. And she was like, I
Life
hate
ain't
you.
fair.
It ain't
Yeah, she was mad. But
She said, I hate you?
Oh, she said, I hate you. You
Well,
know,
that's
kids,
the first
that's
of many
the
I hate
oh,
you. What do you He was like, she said I hate
You're not
you?
my best friend, and I hate you.
I just
girls
would
are
never,
different
I'd
than
be like,
boys.
I would always be like, go in your room and say that.
Right.
Because I don't want to hear
say
that.
Yeah,
but you
don't
can
say
feel
to
it,
me.
but you know.
But you know it's not real. It's just like saying to me, you know, when you your kids say, you are not my best friend. Well, guess what? I don't want to be your best friend. I'm
The
30,
girls
you're a
always
little
said, don't you
kid."
hate when mom says, I'm not one of your little friends?
Right, I'm not.
Be like, I didn't. I got friends. I don't need you to like me. That's the last
Right.
thing I need is one more friend.
Question, but isn't there a part of you that wants to be a trusted friend too, or do you just
No.
put yourself in the parent box?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm the
no,
parent.
that's a
You
no.
do as I say.
This gentle parenting then, Mrs. Obama.
But Kelly, this is the thing. It's like, once you decide you want your child to be your friend, now you're worried about them liking you.
That's right.
And there's so much of parenting that has nothing to do with them liking you. So much of what you're going to have to teach them is counter to what they want.
That's right.
You know, what
Yes.
you with a friend, you want them happy. All the time.
Yes.
Your kids have to learn how to live in their unhappiness. They have to learn how to live with unfairness, and they have to learn it in their house. They can't, their first bout of unfairness can't be at school, you know, or when they're 30.
gosh,
you know,
you're
you
right.
want them to understand,
they
you're
can't
not
like you
equal.
all the time,
You and
Kelly.
your sister.
Stop
I'm
people
happy with
pleasing your
her.
kids.
I'm not. Right, stop. People
And
pleasing.
you can be friends. I'm friends with you guys now.
Yes.
But I wasn't trying
Exactly.
to be
I
your
love
friend
my
when I
kids
had
now.
to tell you, you got to be home by 7 o'clock.
We're
or,
not friends.
You know,
Like,
She
bye.
dropped me off in front of the high school, remember,
Yes,
at
and that was the
Lamar.
hardest thing in
And
the
I was
world.
like, I don't want to go. The first time she let me off the hook, and then she was like, you got to get out the car, you got to go. and I've never seen a yard look like it was like
it was
a whole
so
football field
Yes, it
long.
was.
It was massive, and the walk was so hard.
It was so long, and she kept turning around looking at me, and I'm like, I feel like